Well, welcome everybody to the Fearless Arts Podcast. I am normally your host, Michelle Lynne, but today we have a special guest who is known to many of you, Robert Bosworth, trained musician. Welcome back to the podcast for this special episode.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me again.
I really debated having you again. I thought, do I need that?
Well, some part of you must, because here I am.
Do the viewers, what do the people want? That's my number one question.
Did you ask them?
No, but sometimes I look at the download download rate and I figure out which episode is done the best, and I don't think it was yours. But we got you back.
But he's still available.
Welcome.
Hi.
Why don't you introduce yourself for everybody who doesn't have the pleasure of already knowing you, and tell them why you're here today.
Well, hi. As Michelle so eloquently pronounced, my name is Robert Bosworth, and on the Instagram, I go by Robert Bosworth Trained Musician. And I am a pianist and voice coach and singer, not as much, but I do that. Musician overall, who currently lives in Lexington, Kentucky, teaching at the University of Kentucky. And yeah, that's my main thing now.
Great.
But I'm here today, part two of the question. I'm here today to help you people find out more about your host, who so wonderfully does her job in asking people about their lives and their mindsets as musicians and entrepreneurs, that we both thought, right, that it would be a great idea to delve deeper into who is Michelle Lynne.
This was your idea.
What makes her tick? What makes her get up in the morning? And how does she sleep at night?
These are tough questions.
So we'll start with that.
Okay. Well, welcome, Robert, and I'm happy to let you host for the day. I've been doing this podcast for over a year, and I had someone tell me, I listened to every single episode, and she had a bunch of questions for me, and I thought, why do you have so many questions for me when I feel like I share everything on this podcast? So then I had that thought. She said, somebody should really interview you. And then 3 days later, you texted me out of nowhere, as you usually do in the car, or I get some little song, or I get some yelling voice message about how, hey, I've got a great idea. I should interview you on your podcast. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So here we are.
Here we are. The desperation came through the phone so loudly that you couldn't resist.
What's my favorite thing you've ever sent me through the phone was, you've given me multiple pep talks, and you've also did a random jingle once. So it was very encouraging. I remember saving that.
Likewise with the pep talks, for the record, by the way, this lady.
And of course, you are the one who composed our Fearless Artist theme song, which everyone heard at the beginning of this episode.
Well, let's see. I'm going to try to strive my best to do the same usual thing you do and follow the flow very well. But I did.
You do listen to every episode, so I appreciate that.
Many of them. I think I've probably neglected a few, not on purpose, but...
Did you do your hair all nice just to be the host of today's podcast?
This is how my hair looks on a daily basis.
Got the TV wave going.
No, this is what it looks like in life.
Okay. It's like Pat Sajak style,
And I feel about as old as he is, too.
You're younger than I am.
You do kind of. You have some Vanna White reminiscences.
Thank you. All I do is touch buttons and watch. Yeah. I sit at the piano and I press buttons.
Well, that's all playing piano is anyway. We'll start with that. When did you start playing the piano and pressing these buttons? Oh, no, please. I
hate this question. Oh, my gosh. I literally hate this question so much that, 1 year ago, Dimitri and I started this game of who gets asked this question more.
Yes.
And
when did you first start playing?
Exactly. After every concert, we started this kind of joke, and we counted points. Okay, the answer is 4, and I really don't find it an interesting question. So
it's
your
not,
job as a host,
but I felt like I had to. Well, I felt like I had to check that box. I felt like I had to check the box for the people. I'm a man of the people.
There's the answer.
We could start with another softball. Another softball I had was, did you have any fears in your childhood that you have yet to overcome? Would you rather start there?
Oh. Any fears in my childhood?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So we have some fun
Skydiving.
questions like that and some other career questions.
Fears
Skydiving?
in my childhood. Yeah, skydiving. I probably wouldn't do. What am I afraid of? You know, like that Fear Factor show where you have to eat spiders or something like that. I would just
Yeah.
never do that. Like if I
And
ever go on Fear Factor,
you watched that
no,
as a
I
child?
can't even watch it. No,
Oh.
no, I didn't watch it as a child either. Do I have any fears that I haven't overcome? I don't know if they came from my childhood. Yeah, being good enough. Is that a fear?
Did you have any? Let's take that then and transplant it into the aspect of you in your musician life. Did you have any fears, early Michelle, in terms of pianist and musician, that you have overcome?
You know what? I think my fear as a musician came later once I was no longer the big fish in a small pond. Because when
Mm.
I was young, I was fearless. And this is kind of interesting because when you have that kind of childlike innocence and you are just loving something and you're just also good at it and people tell you that you're good at it and you just go, you just run. It's like I was running towards this thing and it was exciting and fun. I was playing with people and it's not like I cared so much about getting the gold sticker at music festival, but I loved my teacher, she was great. We were doing concertos, we were doing four hands, we were doing eight hands projects. And it's just, I didn't have any fear. And then I think the fear came in once, as I said, you're no longer the big fish. You realize that, oh, like my teacher in Montreal had to break down my technique and rebuild me. Then you find out that there are kids, 5 years younger than you that are playing bigger rep. Then you have like the competition circuit. Then you start worrying about, you know, and I think I didn't have a filter when I was younger either. I've worked on that a lot. So I would, like I won this concerto competition and I ran around like woohoo, I won, and like not having any self-awareness that other people might not like that I was sprinting around. So a little bit of my enthusiasm was like not, anyway. So yeah, I think the fear came in later and all the insecurity and the doubt and like the things that I've had to the perfectionism.
But you've overcome that since it crept in. You wouldn't
I
say
have
that you
made
still wake up every morning and
massive
are crippled by fear.
massive progress in it. Yes, I have
Yeah.
overcome quite a bit of it to the point where that's the reason the Fearless Artist really started, is I just share what I'm experiencing because I'm a natural sharer talker. So I get on Instagram and I'm like, hey, I learned this thing and I know it's going to help somebody out there. And so from there, because I was fighting my own perfectionism, I've been able to help bring this community together of people who are overcoming their own limiting beliefs and putting themselves out there. And, as we call it, being fearless, but really it is like looking for your own opportunities, not believing that you have to fit into a box, not thinking that you have to be the number one best pianist to be worth calling yourself a pianist, that we all have a gift to share. You have a unique purpose. I mean, all of these things have come from realizing like, okay, this is stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah. Well, and you in your, I mean, I follow your page and we have become friends as well over the last, how long has it been? Like a year? Not even.
Oh, I can't even remember.
I don't know. It's hard to track because you unfriended me accidentally and then you followed me again. And
I
so
did
now
not.
when you look and see, it says that this is Michelle Lynne, has followed you since blankety blank. That's
all
not the
you
right
need to do,
time.
Robert Bosworth, is check when I slid into your DMs because I was like, yo, you're hilarious. And that's how we started talking
Is
because
that
I
how
found
you
your
find it
videos.
out? Okay, well, I'll do that later.
I found your videos and I was literally going to your page. I've told you this before, just to like for cathartic laughter time. I was like, this guy is so ridiculous. Like I was like, okay, I go here when I need a moment. I mean, it was the singer videos, it was the teacher stuff, and then I just wrote you. I'm like, hey, you're so funny. But I found you and you were small. You were only like 2,000 or 3,000.
I was small. Yes, I was small,
now
but I
you blew
was
up,
smaller
taking
as
over.
well. Yeah. Well, I mentioned that all to say that I've been following your stuff, and I know part of what you talk about in terms of you saying, in that last answer, fitting into a box, prompted the thought that you often are preaching about working in many different boxes and thriving in the portfolio career is a term that I know you've bandied about with several of your guests. And I want to know, I'm curious when that realization struck you that, it probably would be beneficial, or maybe you've always been that way. Maybe it would be beneficial to work on something other than just play the piano. Because as a child, I was always just, it was like, do music. That was it. Don't worry about anything else. I mean, worry about stuff. But the early parts of my career were so focused on the music making and very little outside of the actual performing or the honing in on the artistry part. And I'm curious when the more real world application of no, you actually need to be a well rounded person who can network and who can do the business stuff, when that clicked for you, or if you've just always been like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, a few things come to mind. I grew up singing and playing the piano and doing basketball and, doing a leadership club at school. So I think I always had multiple interests and things that I naturally excelled at. So when it came time to choose, I actually chose piano over basketball. Like I had the chance to stay and play on the college team in my local city. And I was like, no, I'm going to go to the big city, Edmonton, and continue my piano studies. So I don't know. Piano for me was never like this, a star is born and she's going to be the next greatest pianist. It was just like something, it was just like another thing that I really liked. And I was, like I said, um, and then over the years, uh, the singing stayed with me and my church life as well. Like I sing a completely different genre. So we call it like contemporary Christian music or whatever. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
in other music genres too, I kind of felt for a long time like my life was kind of split. Like there's like the pianist side and then there's also the singing thing on the side, or I do like clubs and stuff on the side. Um and then the leadership stuff really came in with also like leading the music team at my church. I did a few leadership conferences. I was interested in those kind of, groups, gatherings. I've always been a team person, basketball team, really big team player. So like I think then I started going into more leadership skills and communication. And I don't know, you pick up stuff and you're like, oh, I like this. And then I learned about the ikigai, which is like your center of purpose. And that when you find something that gives you energy, that's a really good sign that you're in the right place. So then I kind of started noticing like, oh, I light up when I'm around people. I light up when I'm speaking to people. Coaching started coming in. Um, I was getting coached by a life coach at that point, and I hadn't really stepped into coaching yet, but I was listening to like a lot of motivational speakers and like, the pumping up thing has always kind of been. Then I started talking on Instagram stories, but that was way before the Fearless Artist. That was just like on my own personal account. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's kind of like picking up these pieces all along the way. Then you start learning about, move to Europe, didn't have an income. Okay, what am I going to do? Teach piano. Like I was already teaching it in Montreal. So a lot of that portfolio stuff just comes from necessity. Like you got to pick up. I always knew like, okay, I'm going to accompany this guy. I'm going to teach these students. I'm going to piece together an income over the months so we can pay the bills. And I was doing that already in Montreal, playing for anybody who needed an accompanist, pianist, that kind of thing. And I think that also my conservative farmer, hardworking background. I come from Alberta. And so I really think that has played a key in like hard work, grit, perseverance. Like I've watched my parents. My parents are good, solid people who like work really hard. And I've watched that my whole life. So there's I think part like you just learn like you got to find a way.
Yeah.
Like if your truck is stuck in the mud or the snow at 2 a.m., like you pull her out. And I don't know, something about that I really feel comes from my ancestry. So all of those things together kind of started, and then I started taking the coaching seriously with, TFA starting, and then I started writing songs and taking singing more seriously, getting lessons, and I don't know, piecing it together and finding what gives me energy and
Yeah.
what lights me up.
Talk more about the singing, because I feel like most of your Instagram presence, at least in my awareness, is through people knowing you as a pianist. And that's how I
Yeah, it
first
is.
started to know you. But
It
then
is.
in one
That's
of our
probably a problem.
conversations at some point, or maybe I was looking, as I do sometimes, the people I follow on Instagram. I said, oh, I wonder what they have on Spotify or wherever. And I searched for you and I found, oh, here's an album. And I clicked on it and all of a sudden you were singing. And I was like, whoa, what? Wait a minute. That's different. Is this the same Michelle Lynne person? So I just feel like talk a bit more about what got you into the songwriting specifically aspect of it. Because I do these fun little songs that are, throwaway satirical things, but yours are, I would call legit songs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, most people who find my songs are like, wait, what? We had no idea, which is not a great sign
Yeah.
of my marketing
Go
branding.
listen
But
to
no, I
them,
haven't.
people. They're wonderful.
Well, my album's actually finally coming out, so they will be out much further than they are currently, hopefully.
All right.
Um, Songwriting. I think that also comes from church stuff, church life, the worship team that we led. There was yeah, you come up with new songs together as a team, and then people would start saying like, oh, like this is something you should probably pursue. Then during COVID, actually, I took a songwriting course with a guy in the States, and that was very informative, and I really liked it. And then I was taking private singing lessons, and I was talking about that with my coach, talking about like writing lyrics. So this love comes from my country music upbringing, right? Like my dad, drummer, singer for his jamboree band, and I grew up singing country songs and singing in the truck on the weekends and stuff, and going to country music jamborees. And so this love of singing has always been part of my life. And so writing lyrics is very interesting to me because I grew up singing all these country songs that are about storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
and took this songwriting course and just talking about how to craft lyrics. I read a few books, and I don't know, I love the metaphor language. I love the poetry language. A lot of my metaphors come from the Bible. I went through something pretty traumatic in 2020, so I was kind of starting to write through that. Music was my way of processing. It was my way of, I mean, at some point I was like, there were no words anymore. I would just sit at the piano and cry, and like,
Yeah.
so a combination of like that um, church leading worship, and then 2020 season, and then it's like, okay, I want to release these. And yeah, I know that there's more. I need to create some more time in my schedule for it.
Well, I love them. I think they're great, and I feel like you can definitely tell that they are moved by personal experience. And at the same time, I mean, I also had a traumatic thing in 2021. That's what that was. And only recently, like in the last several months, I've also wondered, like, oh, I kind of have a random song idea for that thing. But at the same time, I feel like the it's so silly and counterintuitive to what you and I preach online all the time, to not be your own self critic as you create. Because
Yeah.
I've started to flesh out the idea for a song based on that thing or inspired by that thing, but at the same time, I'm already like, is this so corny?
Mm.
Uh, is it hokey? Is anybody gonna care? And what's the point of all of it? So I feel, I don't know. I don't even know why all that comes to mind, but I feel like it is. I'm inspired to continue to flesh it out, if for no other reason, just as it's a cathartic thing for myself. Um,
Yeah,
like you said, with crafting lyrics and crafting, at this some point where there's no words left for
exactly.
certain
And
experiences.
my producer and my vocal coach really helped me out of that
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism state. Like my producer is a friend of mine, August Green. Actually just saw him last week in Portugal. And he came over, and it was just kind of like a God thing. Like he dropped into my life because I knew his partner. And then she was like, my partner's a producer, right? And I was kind of looking for, like, I didn't even know anything about song production, zero. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had to come with this kind of finished product. And so he showed up and he wanted piano lessons, and he was like, hey, show me some of your songs. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I've got like a half a verse here and a chorus here. He's like, no, just like, let me hear it. So I showed him a couple small things, but it took him a while to convince me. Like, I was not willing to really show this. And then he's like, this is great. Like, we can do something with this. And then once I did kind of a basic demo, then I understood you bring that into the studio, and he starts putting like the production together, and I'm like, oh, whoa, this is nothing like what I knew from my classical training. This is very, very different. And my vocal coach was so encouraging to me and really walking me through that season of my life, and giving me lots of resources and lots of inspiration and lots of things, and like believing for a better future and like this current state. Music is healing. This is
Mm-hmm.
how we have, for me, it was like, okay, this is a way that I can express, but I don't even, like, as you said, there's no words left. Um, so that's really what helped me, was those two people.
Those things that you were being shown by the producer that were so different from what you learned in the classical world, have you found that you've been able to apply whatever those are back in your classical music making when you do it?
I mean,
Whatever they are, or is it more specific to
I
things
would
like sound mixing and stuff like that?
Well, I would watch him like add notes in, or like, oh, I played a wrong note, and he would just take his mouse and drag the note down. I'm like, can we do that all the time? Like, or like
Live in real time,
um
please. Yes.
yeah, exactly. Or I think the process of creation was so fascinating because he would add like a different drum beat, or he would add this synthesizer or this pad or whatever, and it would be like, oh, that's cool. Like, we're going for a vibe, we're going for a feeling. I
Mm-hmm.
think in my mind, the classical, I just finished editing my classical pieces for the album. My album's a combo of like these songs, and true classical piano playing, right? So I was talking to my editor today, and it's like, okay, I need you to swap out this bar for this bar, but he can't take his mouse and drag down the pitch. He has to like cut and paste from somewhere where I did play it correctly, right? So it's a different process. But August made me feel so safe, and like it took all this pressure off of me. And even last week he was so encouraging. He's like, look how far you've come. Like you're doing the thing. And it's hard for me to kind of say that or receive that, which has made me thinking about like when you're, I don't know, somebody sent this, you know, that Instagram thing going around. It's like, you don't realize you're making progress because you keep setting the bar higher for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, this kind of like never, when have we arrived? What is success? When do we feel like I'm in my purpose? I'm living my purpose. Things are good. Like that's kind of something I'm working on recently, just to be like, hey, things are going really well. And I just want to enjoy this season and keep working towards what I believe I'm called to do, instead of being like, oh no, am I ever going to figure it out? Am I ever going to get it? What am I trying to do? And I feel lost and stuck. And that was a narrative I had for so long. It's hard to switch your mindset into being like, wait, like if you talk about things I overcame,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, I got to remind myself like, no, we're good. We're good, self. Stop worrying.
Well, that just means you care, right? No.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's the cliche
And I
thing.
thought about that too. Like,
Yeah.
look how much you care about this, that you get worked up, but it's like, just relax,
clearly,
like do your thing.
Yeah. Well, and I liked earlier what you said about the times when you can really, probably feeding into this are the reminders when, no, I feel like my energy is really lit up by this specific situation or being around people. And maybe that's something that can remind you as well of, you're like, no, I'm doing the right thing. Things are fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like
waking
a lot
up with that sense of purpose.
Yeah, the sense of purpose is also something I know you talk with your clients a lot about on the Fearless Mastermind. And I'm curious, and feeling safe, I'm curious if there was one thing, is there one specific aspect of why people tend to not feel safe that's either that you just heard coming at you for so long that is, you know, I know a lot of like self-help things say, well, if you can avoid XY, if you know that XYZ is happening because of XYZ, then just avoid the second XYZ so that you're not exposed to it in the first place. And I'm wondering if the thing that's out there making everybody feel unsafe, myself included sometimes, has been a specifically identifiable thing more times than not. Or if it's like you said, we all start with, as children, this kind of reckless abandon. I mean, I have 2 toddlers now, and there is reckless abandon running rampant.
Isn't it
now,
beautiful?
some of that's just because they're half of them is from me, and I'm reckless abandon personified. But part of it is because they're toddlers too, and it's terrifying. But at the same time, it is a good reminder because they don't care if they're running around completely naked and fall down and hit their face. They don't know, they just don't know yet. And the
innocence.
I feel like what is it that we encounter that all of a sudden makes us not feel safe anymore in terms of these, you know, taking risks on stage or exploring a lyric or any of that you've mentioned?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. I mean, I think in general, people can tend to wear masks. So we're trying to prove something or be important.
Yeah.
Or list our accomplishments or the resume. You know what's really toxic in the classical music industry is that our bios are all the accomplishments.
Yeah.
I studied here. I worked with this teacher. I started at 4 years old. Look how good I am. Look that I'm better than you. I won these competitions. I did this. I mean, even the fact of competitions. You know, it was so interesting. I subbed for my colleague's pop class. I taught entrepreneurship for classical musicians, and he asked me to step in for the pop kids. And I mentioned to them my background. Somehow competitions came up, and they were like, "But what do you mean? Like, what do you compete about?" And I just stared at them, and they stared at me. And I was like,
who's
"Oh,
better?
this is
Of course.
different.
Yeah.
This is a different world." These musicians had no concept of what a competition would be like.
Really?
Isn't that interesting for
That
us
is
as classical
interesting.
musicians who grow up? It's like, well, we all
Yeah.
play the same piece, and so you can play it faster and better with no mistakes.
Yeah.
You know?
Whose Mozart is more correct, please?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
So I was once part of a mastermind before we started the Fearless Artist. And I remembered in the introduction, they said, this is not a place to brag or talk about your accomplishments. This is a place to kind of, work through. And I was so shocked that they would even say that. I'm like, well, who's coming in here all pompous and trying to be, prove themselves? And then I was naive because as I've coached musicians, you hear about people who go to festivals and everybody just kind of wants, like that image that we want to give across. So in terms of being safe, it's not that we don't want people to own their accomplishments and to say like I've done cool stuff. We were just talking about that. Like things are going well and you're doing cool things and important things. And if you want a competition, like yeah, we want to know, right? It's not that, but it is this sense of trying to be better than everyone else or something that I think in TFA anyway, we're really creating a community that's safe and open in that way.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And I feel like one thing that you've spoken to on that in the past, somewhere else that I've heard you say, either personally or on a broadcast somewhere, has been, what is it? It's a lot more eloquent than how I can think of it, but there are no audience, like audience size doesn't matter either. Um,
Yeah,
it could
that's a big
be
one.
it could be that you just play for 5 people in a retirement home, uh, whether they're paying you or not. That's its own topic. Um, or it could be, thousands upon thousands of people in the biggest stadium that's ever existed. And it's still, I think a lot of, myself included, have encountered, well, it's not really going to matter because there are only going to be 6 people there, or no one's going to
Yeah.
come. Why do I even bother? I feel like that realization that it doesn't matter helps break down that image that we all want to create for ourselves in the classical world of like, well, this is classical music and it doesn't deserve to be heard by audiences fewer than 5,000 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when I started viewing things through the lens of impact
Mm.
versus quantity, that changed a lot for me. Who can I make the most impact on? Okay, that question alone gave me the confidence in quitting my 2 faculty positions. Maybe it's like, oh, but that's the authority, that's the prestige. Look, you can say that you've got this position. You're really you're gonna let that go? It's like, well, I can reach way more people through this podcast, my coaching, and making the impact. And I see where the fruit is. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I know where to invest my energy. And I've had so many people share beautiful moments with me of the one grandma who comes up and says, I played that nocturne when I was young. Thank you so much. Tears in the eyes from audience members. It doesn't matter. Like you said, 5 people in the room, but if there's impact there, why are we doing this? Why are we spending hours slaving at our instruments to share? It's not supposed to be this arrogant, like, look how good I am thing. It's about creating something that helps people connect. It comes back to earlier in our conversation. Music is for healing. Music is for
Mm-hmm.
connection. It's to be able to say something when there are no words to say and to make people feel things and to reach people in a way that you might not be able to reach them through cultures. You can play through all sorts of different backgrounds, cultures, generations. Music reaches people. And that's what we're trying to do as artists.
Yeah. Is there one way you can encourage people to remember that when they get too wrapped up in, like, specifically people who are younger in their journeys, like undergrads or grad school or even high schoolers that just haven't gone through those experiences yet to believe it for themselves, but that, I work in a college setting primarily. I try to impart similar beliefs onto these 18 to 24-year-olds
Yeah.
of no, this matters every time. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter just if it's a sold out crowd. And they just usually haven't had that much experience having the people come up to them after the teary grandmas or whatever it is. uh I don't know. I wonder, in your position as a coach and educator, have you found a successful way to really get that message through to people earlier in their careers? Or is it just
Mm-hmm.
something that you have to kind of experience in order to really get it?
I mean, I would be surprised if an 18-year-old hadn't had at least one person come up to them after a performance and say something that was meaningful. So
Yeah.
even if it's just one time that somebody walked up to you at the old folks home, let's say, and was like, hey, that was beautiful. Or at a
Yeah.
wedding. I mean, I remember playing a wedding. I was probably 8 years old. I was playing some background music. Nobody was really listening. People were standing around talking. And this one old man came and like put his hand on my shoulder and bent down and said something in my ear. I was, of course, terrified because this guy came so close to me suddenly while I was playing the piano. But I remember he said something like, "This is beautiful. Thank you." Right. And that stuck with me even as a small child. So I know if anybody is pursuing music at a college level, it's because somewhere along the way somebody said, "Hey, you're good at this." So,
Mm-hmm.
or like what you're doing is good. It's meaningful. I mean, when I say that.
Yeah.
So remember any single time that somebody thanked you for your music.
Yeah.
That's number one. Second of all, second thing comes to mind is he who is faithful in the small things will be faithful with the big things. So if you want the sold out crowds, then you better know how to walk on stage with your head high, and you're going to give a great performance, and you're going to make people in the room excited that you're on stage. And you can't do that unless you have failed for a much smaller group and figured out what doesn't work and how you're going to make it better next time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm believing for bigger crowds. Like my biggest concert is going to be 1,500 people next month. And I'm ready for that because I've done it like, I don't know, 500 times now for crowds of 200. And then I've played for 14 people too. So like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's always been this huge thing. Like I have done that. You try and sell the concert out and there are 14 people. Even the worst story ever happened. This sweet lady, she's like super supportive, one of my biggest supporters. And only 14 people came to Opus 16 in this small little village. It was like, I don't know, 8 years ago when we first started. And I walk up to introduce the program and she goes, "Oh, Michelle, this is ridiculous." Because she felt so bad for me that there were only 14 people there. And meanwhile, I'm trying to like present my first piece. And I was just like,
Yeah.
now is not the time. Now is not the time.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you that you care that no one's here. But also, I got to play now. So please don't say that because now I'm really embarrassed.
Yeah. That's happened to me as well when one of the organizers for something comes up to you right before and is just like,
Right before you go
"Oh,
out.
I'm so sorry there aren't more people," and you're like, how am I supposed to benefit from that? Because I intentionally I usually don't like knowing who's there beforehand if I play something, or even how many people are there. I like walking out and just I'll look at the hall, whatever the hall is, and take in the crowd in that moment, just out of curiosity. I try not to let it matter. Like again, it doesn't matter. So if I'm peeking out from the thing, oh, there are only 30 people out there today. That's not gonna. I'm not
It doesn't
focused
help
on that
you.
before performance. And I feel like a
No,
lot,
definitely
at
not.
least my stuff with a lot of college students and their degree recitals is, oh, are enough people going to come? Are all my friends going to come? Are they going to come? Are they going to be there? And yeah, you want that support, but also trying to go ahead and instill that belief that, it doesn't matter. Again, the amount of people that come isn't the point. It's the experience they have.
I think integrity means that you show up and you give
Yeah.
everything you have to give, no matter who's in the room.
Yeah.